Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Melbourne CocoaHeads, number 169. Rowdy crowd. In the spirit of reconciliation, Melbourne CocoaHeads acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to the elders past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Got a great show for you tonight. 3 presenters covering very different aspects of being an app developer. But before that, we got some admin. This meetup is governed by the CocoaHeads Code of Conduct. If you're being harassed or notice that someone else is in an uncomfortable situation or have any other concerns, please get in touch either in person to an organizer or by email or by using the anonymous form online. You can find more details about that on the website. Housekeeping. The toilets are out the door, past the lifts and turn right, and the emergency exit is near the toilets. If you see someone with a blue dot, it's their first time, so be extra nice to them. And people with these funky CocoaHeads badges are organisers, so you can ask them questions about the evening. For taking questions tonight, these can be asked both in person or in Slack in the meetup channel. Please don't shout questions out during the presentations. The presenters will make time for questions at the end. We can do this without our sponsors. ATBT Apps are the gold sponsor, and Baloo are the silver sponsor. We thank them all, Mr. ATBT Apps. We thank them all for their generosity and support. Some other CocoaHeads events coming up soon. Next week we have the Hack Night, which I think is held in this building. Is that right? Yep, in here. The week after that is the social night. Last month that was at Fad Gallery in Chinatown. Same again this month, probably. Check in Slack. And the first Monday of every month, you can go to CocoaHeads Breakfast, 7:30 a.m. at Axel Coffee on Elizabeth Street, near Melbourne Central. If you want even more meetups, our friends at Sydney CocoaHeads have you covered usually next week, I think. And you can check out Melbourne Google Developer Group as well. You can find us online at our website, on Slack, and on Mastodon. Hmm? Which one? Ah, cool. Oh, that one? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this, yeah, so the Slack now has other people involved from Sydney as well. Yep. Okay, before we get started, let's have a recap of the Apple event. Thanks, Tim. Now, I'm going to risk a body-shaming code of conduct violation here, but the biggest talking point for me was this light-coloured trousers, dark tops look that everyone had going on. It was all over the place, and I'm a big fan of that. So I'm going to be going to Myer. I don't have it. I'm going to go to Myer and sort myself out for that. Yeah. So that was the highlight of the whole morning, if you ask me. And that's no. In real news, new phones, amazing. $1,500 they start right now in Australian dollars, or $1,650 for the plus size, $1,850 for the Pro. Obviously the cameras are a big difference between the standard and the Pro. The Pro now has an action button and an A17 chip, which you won't need. And don't expect your Pro to have any interesting colours. Sorry, Amy, no pinks. Maybe next year. I was actually looking at the colours today of the standard iPhone 15 that I'm going to get, and I'm like, they're all like, okay, but yeah. New watches, $650 or $700 for the larger Series 9 now. I say new. There's literally no reason to upgrade to these watches as far as I can see. When the biggest selling point is that they're carbon neutral, or you can do a finger gesture that you could already do anyway. You just had to turn it on in settings. I don't know. It kind of feels like they're out of ideas now on the watch front. However, I did really like these fine woven bands. They look really cool. And today I noticed that what used to be the leather phone cases are fine woven as well, which is pretty cool. But I wonder, like the leather patina effect was always really nice. So I don't know if they'll do that. Ultra 2 has this though, and that is extremely cool. And I have absolutely no need for it, but I still want it. So maybe I'll do that for Christmas. This was cool. There's a couple other things though. 3 nanometer is like amazing. That just blows my mind that that's even possible in the realms of manufacturing and science. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the size of these things is just unreal. And also this spatial video looks really cool. And I'd like to know how they do that with 2 cameras so close together, because my understanding of the science there was that you actually had to have cameras roughly eye distance apart to make that work. So I don't know how they're doing that. I assume machine learning, probably. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, you can order your new phones tomorrow night. I think you can order watches already, and you'll get them next week. That's it from me. On with the show. First up, we're going to have Ryan. Where'd Ryan go? Oh, here he is. Tell us about app retention.
All right, sorry about that, guys. We're back. We are back. All right. There's bad retention to start with there, so that's how we're going to start this talk. So, all right. So, as everyone has a brilliant idea for every new app that they have, and this was me and my friend at the beginning of last year. We'd just come up with this brilliant new app idea, and we want to launch it out to the masses and get out there and get going. And as you are, every time you come up with a new app idea, super excited, and everyone's just full of energy. So we started building the features, getting it out there, and then we ended up wasting all of last year. By the end of it, we had essentially no more users than we started with. We had made so many iterations, and we didn't know what worked, what didn't work, and it was not the best year of my life. Let's take it this way. And so our two takeaways was consumer apps are hard, and we'd clearly been focusing on the wrong things. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board and had a rethink, and based on all the feedback everyone told us, and by everyone it was pretty much our friends, they all kind of said to us, it's too complicated, there's no reason I need this app, and you need Android. Of course they said you need Android. And they was comparing us to other apps like Facebook and Snapchat. But I'll go into that a bit more in a second. But just a bit about my background quickly. So I got into consumer apps about 7 years ago for this company called Cover. It was an early stage tech startup in the UK, and I joined more on the marketing side, the devil's side, and then moved across to data, and then got into learning about product that way because I was helping set up the analytics frameworks for the product teams. Stayed there for 4 years, and we grew pretty rapidly, which is a great experience to be part of, but it kind of plateaued and moved on to the next thing. Still a business, but I moved on. Then during that, I kind of learnt to code a little bit towards the end, and I launched this app, Daily Prompt, and it went pretty well. If Cover went from like 100,000 a year to a few million, this did the first bit, where it went from 0 to 100,000, but couldn't get any further, and retention was a real bottleneck for this app as well. And I just didn't quite have the experience or know-how of how to build this any further. And so, there you go, there's the title. And so, bit of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy. And so, the product director of Cover, the first company, was leaving, and I was like, great, if I'm going to start a company with anyone, it'll be him. And if there's anyone that I'm not going to waste another year of my life with, it's him, which turned out to be completely wrong. But so we started to work on this app. It's called Outside. And eventually it's an event planning app. You can think of it like Facebook events, just pulled off the platform. And we're another company trying to make Facebook events a thing on their own. And the goal is, can we build another big company? And if so, what would that look like? And being at Cover, we learned to build anything is hard, and so it's like we want something that we can work on a long time. And so this is kind of where we're at now. I've got a quick demo if it'll work. So this is the app here on the side. So you can see you've got some events on there, and then you can just put in what you're doing, when you're going. We pick a nice image based on the info you put in, normal event stuff like repeating. You can sync it to and from your calendar, so you can just work from your calendar instead of outside. And then you create the event, and you get a nice, beautiful event view, hopefully. And you've got more like you can invite friends, you can get them to come, you can add notes, and all that good stuff. And then when the event's over, it goes into your memories, and then you can add like images and memories from that event. So that's kind of where we are now. And this is the app that we spent a year on, had no progress, but in the last few months, we've just managed to turn that around, where we consistently just focus on retention. And so this is a kind of a talk about why is retention important, kind of what someone told me a year ago, how do you track it, and then how do you improve it? And I would just kind of go through things that we did over the last few months. And so when we think about consumer app businesses, there's only three things that everything bundles down into, which is retention, monetization, and viral user growth. And being a event planning app, we thought, okay, viral user growth first, because it's pointless without your friends on it. Then we go to retention, so we've got to keep your friends on it. And then, take over the world, and then you just monetize them, and that's the easy bit, surely. So we got a plan. We're from the UK, from London, so it was like, okay, we'll start with our friends, get them all on it, get our parents, whatever. They'll share it with their friends of friends. We'll get more on there. Everyone starts just inviting others. Then we take the UK, and then we bugger off and we chill out on a beach somewhere. That was the goal. And as you know, this is what it didn't go very well. And this is what our retention looked like at the end of 1 year. If you haven't seen this before, this is something Apple released where they show your benchmarks about how you compare to other apps. You can look by category, or you can look by all apps as a whole. And so you can see our day 1 retention is terrible, day 7 is bad, and day 28 that doesn't even exist. And this is our friends, like they didn't even use it. So this is pretty disheartening. And so we thought, okay, this isn't working, let's reprioritize. Okay, let's say what everyone was telling us was you need the Android app. This is terrible. None of my friends are on it, and I'm just going to use Facebook events instead. And so how could we then create an event planning app that doesn't require your friends to be on it? That was the main goal. And so we went from a retention first point of view, even though it didn't seem like it was super possible. This was back in March this year, and this is what our metrics look like now, which is a lot better. I just wish we were there a year ago. And so you can now see we're above the 75th percentile for all metrics, and it actually gets better as we go on. And we have newer cohorts than this, and it's looking very good. So get the order of things right is the first thing. And so why is retention important? Just to go over that quickly. And so it kind of depends on how big a business you want to build. You can kind of define that by how good your retention is. This is a cohort graph showing the different cohorts and what they look like based on how big the app is. So the top 10 apps at the top, and then the next 5,000 at the bottom. And obviously we're not all going to build the top 5,000 or top 10 apps, but this is kind of a very well and true thing, as even if you go down to an app that has like 10 users and 100 pounds. And so if this is true, then you can define how big your business can become based on your cohorts that you have. Obviously, there's many other things that play than retention, but you can get a good grasp of it from day 1, day 2, day 3, day 7. You don't have to wait 2-3 years to figure this out. And obviously, with a cohort, you want to look on like a very short time basis to see if you're improving. So this is why it's super important, because it kind of defines how big your business can be. If you're doing no money in revenue like we were a year ago, that kind of mapped to our retention at the same time. And so when you look at retention curves, so like say these are like a cohort analysis graph, you can just see how it drops off over time. And the bad retention curve always just drops to 0. If you don't drop to 0, it means it's not bad. If, for example, it flatlines at like 5%, this means after X amount of time, 5% of people are still using your app. And then essentially what that means is that you have product market fit with that 5% of the people that downloaded the app. And if you're at 20%, you have product market fit with a bigger group. So if you're not at 0, you can basically just keep talking to users and figure out what it is they like, and then keep building on that. Don't build the features they tell you to build, but just find out what it is that they care about and what they like, and you can kind of build upwards from there. And the difference between good and great here is subtle. It's not actually the height of the graph, it's just the fact that the great one goes up slightly. And an example of that would be like Spotify, where you download the app, you listen to some songs, their recommendations get better, so you listen to some more songs, so you start listening more, and then maybe you start using podcasts as well. So your retention could actually increase over time. And that's like the holy grail. Like that's what everyone wants. So why is it more important than growth and all the other bits that we just talked about? And so retention has this compounding effect. No one really wants, unless you can create really spammy apps, we know that. But like if you want to build a business and a long-term one, which we're trying to do, you need the engagement, which obviously builds daily habits into people's lives. And then the more they're in the app, the more often they'll bump into your paid features, and then more likely they'll tell someone about their app, or they'll just see it on their phone. That typically happens with widgets. People are like, oh, what's that? And then download your app. And it has this compounding effect which the others don't, where you can build monetization and users on top, but it's really hard to do it the other way around. So why doesn't everyone do it? It's pretty straightforward, super hard, and it takes a long time. So you can spend money on ads today and your user graph and user growth will go up, and you can put a paywall in your app and just put £1,000 behind that and you'll instantly see some money come in. But retention will take weeks, months, years to improve. But if you can do it, you know, the holy grail is the Duolingo, right? It's like they their growth has been speeding up. Now they're like 10, 15 years in. And so that's kind of where you want to get to. And especially as like indie developers and anyone building their own app, like we have time. Like we don't have venture capital. We don't have to worry about next quarter's results. And so the good thing is that it's on the side of the indie developer. So how do we do it if we know it's important? So firstly, really basic one and boring one is that you just got to define it. And this is kind of important, but it's easy to get wrong. And so you have, typically when you use like some other third-party analytics providers, you can look at two versions, which is like end-day retention and unbounded retention. I'm going to screw this up probably, but unbounded retention basically means if you say day 7 retention and it's unbounded, you mean anyone that opened your app after 7 days. So it could be on day 7, could be on day 10, 15, 20, or it could be in a year's time. And it's just like what % of people open it in that time. It's not very useful and it's not quick to learn from. Whereas the end day one, it tells you on day 3, what % of people came back and opened your app. And that is way more useful and it's way quicker to learn and iterate on. But obviously we're not all building Facebook or Instagram because they might have an everyday cohort. They might want someone in their app every day to stare at their ads. But if you're Airbnb, you know, daily doesn't make sense to you, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly does. And so you need to define what time period you care about and then just set your initial event, which for typically if you're looking at of the new people coming in, it's just a new user. And then the returning event, you could define as an active user if you're Facebook. If you're at Airbnb, you know, you want someone to be booking a room. That's probably an active user for you. And then for us, it's someone actually planning an event and going to an event. And then once you've defined it and you're looking at it, this is typically what you'll see. And what's great about it is you break it down on a time period basis. So at the bottom here, you can say the week that started. So we define everything on a week. Because if you're not planning something on a week, we're pretty sure you have something planned at least. So it's probably us, not you. And then on the week of the June the 19th, you can say, okay, we got 26%. And then we launch the next week. We release products normally on a weekly cycle. And we can just see, okay, is this improving? Is this improving? And I've picked a screenshot because it's the best 4 weeks that we ever had. It was like the best consistent growth, clearly. But you can see like we iterated and improved it. And there's no bias in this. There's no like active users that can screw this up. It's saying of the 576 people that came in on June the 19th, how did they stick around and did they keep using the app? And so you can literally keep improving and know if you're doing a good job on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis. So how do we track it? You've got third-party tools like Amplitude and Mixpanel. There's more privacy-focused ones as well. That you can literally just Google that and they'll just come up. And then the one that you get for free without having to worry about it is App Store's Connect one, which we just spoke about earlier. And you can just look at their metrics and their benchmarks. And that can be super useful too, but you can't really dig into the details and look into the user behavior and actually see why is someone a better user or a worse user. So the 3 Ps of retention, I couldn't think of 3 Rs, so I went with 3 Ps. So this are the 3 things that we did to improve our app. And it seems pretty broad and hopefully useful to everyone else. So positioning, like I said in the beginning, everyone compared us, well not compared us to, but said, I'm just going to use Facebook, I'm just going to use Instagram. So the competition was super hard. We have to have Android. You have to be trying to make friends on the app. And this was like an event planning app for friends. And we decided, okay, we found out that there's this niche. I hope this isn't anyone's app in the audience. We found out there's this niche called countdown apps. and you count down to the event that you have going on. And it's super basic, it's super simple, and this is the competition instead of Apple, and this is, instead of like the social networks or whoever everyone said. And this is a way easier market to compete with. Event planning, like countdown, is just you. You're just going to count down to the app on your own. And this took like, it's obvious now, but this took us like 2 months to figure out, of just like looking around. But yeah, we found out that none of these apps have any social features. None of them are very well looked after, but they get thousands and thousands of downloads a month. And so we repositioned to focus on that, because it turned out to be like, this is what users are looking for. Like these apps, I don't know the exact number, but like those apps were getting like nearly 500,000 downloads a month, and some of them haven't been updated in like 3 years. So if we can find a niche, then I'm sure anyone can find a niche in that app store. And so you kind of want to go for what are users looking for, as opposed to what do you want them to find. We wanted them to find our event planning app with friends, but no one's searching for that. So it turned out Countdown app was the thing. This is a graph of the events made in our app per month. It's pretty low, and it wasn't growing. And this is our best 6 months, by the way. And then this is what happened straight after, as soon as we relaunched as a Countdown app. And the huge thing was we barely made any product changes. If you were a user of the app before, which barely anyone was, but if you were, you wouldn't have known any difference. You may have noticed a few widgets changed, or there was a slight difference, but it was mainly all onboarding. It was all the App Store screenshots, and it was just what we called we still called outside, but we just changed a few keywords. So it's super useful, and it turns out that a lot of apps have done this in the past. So like TikTok used to be a lip syncing app, and they just focused on lip syncing because they found out on Thursday nights, this was before they had traction, they found out on Thursday nights they had a huge spike in traffic, and that was because people was lip syncing. So they doubled down on that, they got the user growth, and then they became huge, and the TikTok we know and love/hate today. So that's hopefully our founding story, that if we don't go bankrupt in a few months' time, that'll be a cool one. And then, yeah, so there's your positioning, and it's pretty straightforward. I think the earlier stage, that's super relevant for people at the stage we're at, where, we've got no users, we're not a big company, and you're just trying to get a few more users in the door. But yeah, so we've gone from like 5 users a day at best to like 200 users a day. So that was super useful, and it didn't take another year of launching product features. And so when you do focus on the product, typically the massive drop-off is at the beginning, and for us, it day one went to 0, or like day one went down 95%. So it was clearly that was where we needed to focus, and that's where all the low-hanging fruit is. And so typically focus all your efforts on there. And because apps are so, users don't often and every year are less likely to download an app. But now, when they do come in your app, they have a high willingness to leave, it seems. It seems that they have 10, 20, 30 other apps they can try out. And so what you need, or what we found out is really useful, is just getting them to the thing that they want the quickest, and like, forget about us. Forget about our branding, our pretty images, or whatever we think is cool, or like our mission. Just get them to what they want, which for them was, they want to count down to an event, they want to see the event. And so before we made them create an account, we just plonked them in the app, and then they went and did their thing. And we had horrible retention. And now we repositioned to the first screen you see in the app is that one you see on the left. It's add a plan. We give you a nice little image beforehand. But yeah, add a plan. Then you put the name in, so you can tap Watch Oppenheimer. We then try and instantly find an image that's relevant to what that is, put it in this nice pretty view, and then as soon as you tap create, you're seeing the event as quickly as possible. And so we went from, I think, 20 to 30% of people ever seeing the event view to 90% of people seeing the event view. And so this was, once again, on top of the previous win. This was huge for us. So that's the aha moment. And the second aha moment we've seen is when you add a widget. When you add a widget, I'm not sure if this is true for every app, but it's been true for us. It's just like, they just stick around like crazy. So that's been huge. So now we're not doing anything crazy. We just have that on the screen, but that's clearly the next thing we're going to push towards, getting them to add the widget. To start by making big swings, like we went from creating a whole account and trying to just plonk you in the app to literally just forcing you through a flow of 3-4 screens. And so that's a very big product change. Once again, great for indie developers because you don't have to go through product managers and get sign-off. So once again, huge advantage for just making big swings and trying to see what works. And then when you do, then you just want to comb through everything that a user does. So this is a breakdown of part of our onboarding flow. It's more detailed now, but you just want to comb through every single user action someone does. And how we think about it is every single tap someone does, we're like, thank you. Thank you for tapping that button. Thank you. Like, get them through and just treat everything that they do. We're not literally throwing them confetti, but we're like, everything that they do, you do see a drop off. Like video started on the left-hand side to video completed. That's like 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And so we shortened the video to 1 second and it went up and it improved. And so you can make these tiny incremental improvements along the way. Just to, once you've made the big swings, you can then focus on the one thing or the few things that you can do to make a big difference. Example of this would be every user action here. So you come in, you have a text field, you write Christmas in, the keyboard comes down, you then move, you slide across and move to the 25th of December, then you get to the next screen, and then you tap all day event, and then you go through and you see the event view. So you've got 6 actions. So what we're doing now is that we've just taken out those middle steps. If you write Christmas in, we know it's 25th of December, so we just automatically go to that date, we automatically tap all day, and now we've just got rid of one third of all the actions that you had to do to get through. And so then this is something we're A/B testing now, and we've seen like a 2% improvement. But this took us, a few hours to implement and test out. And if you make 2% every now and then, every week, it makes a huge difference in a year. And so going back to the metrics, the things that you can do horribly wrong is trying to do too much, which is probably not focusing on the first user flow, not focusing on that drop-off. What a lot of people do and what we did exactly what we did for that year was we focused on once you've added your friends, how do we get you to invite more friends? How do we do all of that? That's after you've created the event. And we know that only 20% even ever got to seeing the event. And so although we are at a countdown app now, we have 5 to 10 times more people sharing and actually doing things with their friends. So it's actually had the positive impact on the growth, even though it's not something we actually tried to do. It's just because we get more people through the top of the funnel. And then gamifying for the short term. We also tried it, this is another mistake that we made, was we saw if you add 2 events or your first event, your retention is way better. So we just gave you an event. We just put an event on your home screen and it was like, okay, manually pick an event. Okay, I want Christmas. And we forced them through that flow and their attention dropped off and it was worse. But they all created an event that time as well. It's just because the intention matters. Don't try and gamify it too much. Like on Facebook, if their metric is like get you to 5 friends, they want their friends. They don't want 5 random friends. Next, they speak to users. Their feedback is like super valuable and they always tell you the thing that you are not thinking about. For us, we keep thinking about, we just added like calendar syncing features and like all these cool little things behind the scenes, more premium and live activities. And they were like, I just want a prettier image when I search for something. I just want my widget to be better or like the image just repositioned better. They actually didn't want all the really fun stuff that we had planned. And they were all the really hard things to build at the same time. So they saved us time. Normally what they say is correct, but a lot of the time, don't listen to the features that they have, just listen to the pain points that they have. And that's been super beneficial for us because their features are normally not the best. So if their features are good, then they should take your job, right? So yeah, to summarize, the power of retention is focus on retention first and not last. Don't go to user growth or monetization. That should come second and third. Track it correctly. Don't try gamify everything. Get your positioning right, because that can have the biggest swing, especially for an indie developer. Focus on onboarding, speak to users, and just continually optimize as you go. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. What was that?
Sorry about the screen issues.
Screen was fine. Great presentation. Any questions? Okay.
Thanks, great presentation. How did you track your user actions across your app? What tool did you use for that?
So we use Amplitude. That's the one that we use. We used the previous company Cover. We used one called Mixpanel. It's really good. They're both pretty in the same ballpark. But you start off by tracking like a screen level or a high level, event created account, and then as we start to learn more, then we niche down, and now we track people not on a button by button basis, but if we need to learn more about a flow, that's what we do.
Hey, yeah, I appreciated the talk. So the question I had was, once you've got put a fair amount of work into the retention, improve the retention of the app, like perhaps what tools do you use were there ways you can monetize that retention after you've got that going in the app? Like what pathways are available for that?
So once you've got the retention, what do you focus on next?
So how do you monetize the retention?
Monetize?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. We're trying to figure that one out. If we do, I'll let you know in 3 months. But yeah, so that was our goal, was to spend 3-4 months on retention. We know now how to keep improving it. We don't know how much better we can get it, but we know we can. And so now, yeah, we just started last month. But typically, once again, it's all about top of the funnel. People, when they download your app, have a higher willingness to pay. And so they're more likely to just try and opt into a trial, hence why you always see one on onboarding. And if you do that, and like, it sounds horrible, and I don't like how the App Store's gone, but you can literally just put a paywall in there and give them no features, and like 0.5% of people will do it. It's really bad, but you could do that. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for presentation. And how about necessity of retention for business-to-business application? If you don't make application for customers, and for example, tools for other company to work with customers.
Mm-hmm. I personally have had no experience in business to business, but I'd actually imagine it matters a lot less. But that was just my gut, because the whole point is getting the sales across, right? But or it's like getting them to buy into the product. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I've never done that.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a question if no one else does. Actually, going back to the paywall, do you use anything like RevenueCat or Adapty or anything for your monetization?
Yeah. So we use RevenueCat for sure. So they handle all the payments and all the logic. And we don't use Adaptly, but we use Superwall. I don't know if you know about those. But essentially, it's really good. We don't build any of the paywalls. It's currently just a web view, but they will do it in SwiftUI. But they've done it in a very good way that you can tell that it's not native, but it's very close. But yeah, and then we just optimize that. If we did it on native, we would probably have tested 2 paywalls by now. But in the last month, we've probably tested about 10 to 20 different paywalls. Yeah, it's been very good.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know that it's tightly contested with all like RevenueCat, Adapty, etc. I know some of them have like a native UI as well. I think Adapty does, but
yeah, RevenueCat they've just launched their own version. It's in beta.
Okay.
So even RevenueCat now have their own paywalls that you can just use. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Oh, awesome, thank you. Pass it over here.
Thanks for the talk. My question is around you're talking about the optimization. You had that example of removing those 2 screens from the Christmas flow, and that seemed like a little bit of magic, which was wonderful. But can you talk, just at a high level, was that a very complex thing to be able to take some free form text, I think, and figure out, some smarts around an image and a date and potentially like duration? How did you solve that?
We were thinking about doing something really smart and like machine learning and whatever, like we could do integrations with Unsplash, but we did it really dumb. because we didn't know if it'd be useful. So we literally just whack the images. We handpick them ourselves, or we create them using Midjourney. Those dogs were from Midjourney as well, by the way. That was cool. And then we just have hard-coded strings in the app, literally just, and then we just match the keywords on a word-by-word basis. And then we say, okay, which of these images have the most matches? And then we score it, and then the one that scores the highest we put first. With the Christmas example, we're being very selective with that, because we were going to say, okay, if someone has the word Christmas in the title, we'll just put the 25th of December, but you might put Christmas party, and Christmas party might be a work one on the 16th. So we're only doing it if it's an exact match with that, because you want it to be magical, you don't want it to be annoying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, Sean's got one.
Yeah, just on the Christmas example, I thought that was interesting because immediately I sort of thought, well, actually, you could skip everything. You just have, choose Christmas, right?
Yeah.
But it was interesting that you said that people get some gratification out of that magic of, hey, I type this in and it kind of knows, rather than just selecting Christmas or Halloween, or you could have had 10 different public holidays there, right?
Yeah, we did. We actually did do that. And that was the example where we did exactly that. We put Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, and a few others. Not sure the exact reason why, but it didn't work very well. I think, it's the IKEA effect of building it yourself, building the event yourself, putting the details in. And I think it's probably 20% of our users want Christmas and Valentine's. The other 80% don't. They want whatever it is, a vacation. And so it's not useful for the 80%, but it's useful for the 20. Whereas this Christmas exact match will only be useful for 1-2% of people, but hopefully it'll be really useful.
The other thing I was going to say, privacy aside, you could look at the event names that are being created and sort of aggregate that and kind of figure out what people are interested in, but maybe you don't want to do it in a privacy-centric way. I don't know. But my other request or ask was, can you come back and do the monetization talk once you've done that? Once you've figured it out?
Yeah, if we're not broke by then, yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah, it should be 3-4 months and we'll know. So,
All right.
if it goes
All right,
well.
thanks heaps, right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Pat. That was great. Thanks, Ryan. Very interesting. Next, Ed is going to talk to us about another kind of retention in code.
So, Back to the Future was a placeholder, so I've quickly edited the slides. So, as I said, Back to the Future was a placeholder. This is a follow-on from the presentation I gave in February, which was all about spelunking. And basically that was the porting of the Swinburne text adventure game that we take our OO students through. I ported it from C# to Swift. And in the process, I thought, how do I get a really massive, colossal cave to test this text adventure? And so I went down the rabbit hole of the colossal cave that was written in Fortran in 1975 and ported that across. But in getting ready for this, I discovered that Roberta Williams, who is one of my heroes in life, she wrote some of the very, very early adventure games, has just ported Colossal Cave to, I forget which platform it is, and it's really good. But I'm here tonight to talk about what comes after you've been spelunking and after you've dug down, you get to archaeology. So I hope you're all ready, because archaeology is one of my favorite topics, and that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. But in February I said my next challenge was going to be to help this lady. And this is the event where you and I met for the first time. And she had an app that she had built for her in 2011, both on the iPhone and the iPad. And she'd paid an enormous amount of money. We could all retire on it probably, for this guy to build it. And I think she had hoped she could conquer the world. In the end, she has just basically got an audience of the school that she runs and the students that enroll each semester, and she takes them through that. So it's a cohort of 200 users, and then they disappear. But she's kept it alive now for 12 or plus years. But of course, every so often it gets a bit cranky, and Apple tweaks things, and then it has to be renovated, and that's what she has to do. So she reached out yet once again to me in February and said, can you help? And I thought, well, I've got a bit more experience now, maybe I can. The problem was my resources were 3 books that my sons had left behind when they left the house on how Objective-C works. I had no skills. My access to resources was 0 until the February drinks night, or was it the January drinks night, and this guy turned up from nowhere, just joined, I think, the REA group, and said, God, I'm so glad to be leaving Objective-C behind. I said, excuse me, can you just step over here for 1 minute? And he gave me some advice which was in line with what I was expecting. It's no good. You just have to rewrite the whole thing. So that's what I set out to do. My information source was the 2017 copy of the code, not the code, sorry, the app. I had the code in a zip file, but it couldn't compile. I had no specifications. The only requirement the client gave me was iPhone first, iPad last. And there were a few cryptic comments amongst the code. There was no explanation about how it worked. So my challenge as an archaeologist, going on a dig, was to out a Rosetta Stone. Sorry, have I been, shall I go back to the beginning?
No, keep going, it's fine.
How can I do a dig without a Rosetta Stone? What's the translation mechanism from Objective-C to Swift? Might be easy for people like Amy, but for me, it was terribly hard. So, the size of the challenge also was 11 model classes, 5, 21, 15 views, depending upon which platform, and a ton of assets. The assets I didn't have to worry about because they are easily to move across. And there were a whole lot of external libraries that the guy had to pull and use on back in 2011 for things like JSON and skinnable apps and stuff like that. But I did have, in the Xcode, I could look at the database, So I knew the model, and by using the app on my the 2017 version on my iPhone, could see what the view was and the flow and the kind of thing that Ryan was talking about. How quickly can you get to what you want to do? The only thing that was missing was the logic. Well, how hard can that be? Pretty hard, as it turned out. Because I should have said behind this was we gave it to when we were teaching Swift at Swinburne, one of the exercises we gave them was write a quiz app. Well, of course, that's only like those two screens that they had to write. And this was a lot more complex. So this is what it took from the diagnosis and the point of talking to Vincent at the pub and saying, do you think I should throw this thing away? Yep. To building the database, that took 2 months because I've got to do my daytime job as well. Then the user interfaces, we got the happy path going. So that was the onboarding, doing the quizzes and so on. And then it was all the branch iterations and failure situations and stuff like that. So eventually, come September, we got it on the store. So, oops, wrong way. We got there. From this, written in 2011, to now something that's more a bit 50. Still with a lot of the imagery and so on that the client loved and had poured her heart into it, including songs that she'd written that had to be included with the lessons and so on. And so I have a happy friend. This rocky time in the middle, she was getting very grumpy with me, and her tutors and students, and they started using it this week. So what was the technical result in Swift? 22 views, 34 classes, and so on. Lessons learned. Greenaway's rule of thumb still remains true. Whatever my first estimate is, multiplied by 5. Source code management needed to be very fine-grained, mainly because Renault is not here. And automated string testing, by string, of course, I mean the happy path, the exception path, all that sort of thing. God, I wish I'd had that. Because to do the whole thing through, I have to answer 800 questions and do it, takes days. And even though I try to get rid of the workload and pass it on to other people and get people who are better than me to do the work, they all faded. So I became the key man risk, which is not good. So my thanks. Vincent, who gave me the great advice. Brittany, who helped build a bit of it for me, but then she disappeared. That's her app, by the way, which is a bit of like your countdown app. Hers is all oriented to how do I get myself to Disney World and which rides am I going to go on and stuff like that. But it build the budget for going to Disney World. And you guys. Without you giving me the support, the hints and tips and stuff like that, I wouldn't have got through those 8 months. So thank you all very much. That's it.
Well done. Good work, Ed. Any questions?
Yep. Don't worry.
How did you find the transition from Objective-C to Swift with porting the code?
enrollments have we got so far? How many students? What are they doing? What's the profile? Despite the fact that she said, don't worry about the iPad, turns out half the students have got iPads. Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's I'll give you a different talk about Greek mythology.
I think there was one more person that had their hand. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, yeah, give you. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Ed. I would have given up halfway through, for sure. That's super impressive. Next up, we have Amy. Where's she going? Oh, there. We're off around the corner. Talking about another iteration and taking us to the next step with our app.
I think we're good. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy. My pronouns are she and her. And today I will be talking about mirror, mirror. Sorry. Throat's a bit dry, hay fever, all that usual annoying stuff of living in Melbourne. So, we are back to the cursed laptop. I am so sorry. This laptop does not like this display adapter, and I hope no one is going to complain too much. Let's just roll with it. Okay, we are rolling with it. So, mirror, mirror on my iPhone, show me my workout, which is all about this amazing new feature that is coming next week in iOS 17 and watchOS 10, which allows you to take a phone and then also an Apple Watch and see all of your stats as you're doing a workout mirrored between the two. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of involvement in it. And sorry to any Sydney people, I gave this talk last month. It's the same talk, but yay, it's awesome. It's fun. Okay, a bit about me. I am an iOS developer. I've got a blog. I've got a company. I'm on Mastodon. I cycle a lot, like I'm typically out somewhere doing something, and I travel the world. So that is all about me. The talk. So this particular talk, we are going to cover what the problem is. So how have people tried to get information between the iPhone and the watch in the past? what are some solutions, what are the issues that are typically involved, what's this new thing called workout mirroring, and then we're going to look at some of the particular working and moving bits, such as creating a session, sending data, receiving data, getting updates from the watch, and testing considerations. And hopefully, after a month, I've been able to remember the order of the slides. Okay, first up, the problem. So, anyone building a workout app has tried to do this in the past, where you want data recorded from the watch, such as your heart rate. You also want stuff appearing on the phone. You want them to be in sync, and hopefully none of this annoying flicker. I'm sorry, it's a cursed laptop, and let's just run with it. I'm just going to have fun with the fact that it's like that. This particular laptop in the past years has done weird things with colours as well. So there are actually some very fun talks out there of mine where the screen is just doing weird things. And we go with it. Okay, the problem. Sending of the data. When you send data between the two devices, it needs to be as a dictionary and some other fun stuff. The timeliness of the data itself is always dependent on Apple. You have no control over it. So you can say, hey, send this data. But what ends up happening is watchOS or iOS may go, no, we're just going to batch this up, and then you get half a minute's worth of data in one transmission. And it's not really viable for a workout where you want everything going instantly between the two devices. You've also got the different responsibilities between the devices. So are you recording something on the phone? Are you recording it on the watch? What particular sensors in a cycling workout are paired to what? And stuff like that. After the workout has finished, who's going to be recording the data, and also who sees all of the data? So it's actually a very complex problem in order to get right. So let's have a look at what are some fairly novel solutions people have decided to do. The main one is watch connectivity. So this is the existing bits of iOS and watchOS that allow you to transmit data between two devices. This relies on the devices being awake or receiving data in the background. It's all at the mercy of watchOS and iOS as to when it gets sent. You've got Bluetooth, and both your phone and your watch can be set up to act as Bluetooth sensors and receivers, and you can get yourself into a fair mess when you try to do that. And another option is, hey, let's just sync everything via CloudKit. Yeah, no. Sending everything up to a remote server and then pulling it back down sounds okay, but when you're trying to do it and have the data in sync and reliable and actually timely, it just doesn't work. Plus, if you're out in the bush somewhere, you're not going to have internet connection. Oh, okay. The issues, as I've said before, you've got timely updates. You're at the mercy of everything watchOS and iOS want. You've got two-directional communication is fairly complex, and you're not going to have any guarantees around the transmission as well. Cool. So now we have the solution from Apple, which is workout mirroring. This was announced at DubDub. I had a lot of fun picking apart all of this SDK, asking all the questions when I was there at Apple Park, And yeah, like a lot of thought has gone into this, which is definitely fun. So, first thing you need to do is you need to check that the Watch app is installed. If the Watch app isn't installed, then you're going to run into problems because you will end up with, like you're not going to get the session created or anything like that. To do this, you typically look at the default instance of WC session, and you've got a few different options for the types of information you can get. You can get information about whether the app is visible or whether the app is installed. If the app is visible, it means that the app is running on the device, as in active on the watch. And that's good if you're using WC session and watch connectivity to transmit all of the data. In this case, what you want is something like, is the watch app installed? Now, the reason I will cover in a few slides, hopefully, when I talk about this fun thing called the app delegate. We all remember that, don't we? That's where we throw every bit of logic into an app. And yeah, no, no one needs to laugh at that bad joke. Okay, so from your phone, you've got the phone, you've gone, yep, I want to start a workout. So what you do here is you get this workout configuration. You tell it, what type of activity it is it outdoor, indoor, a few other things based on the activity. And then you say to the HK store instance, go ahead and start this configuration on the companion device. And another thing you do on the phone is you listen for the creation of the session from the watch. So the actual sort of flow is you started on the phone saying, hey, go create this configuration on the watch. The watch then goes and creates the session. Then the watch talks back to the phone and it calls this callback. Callbacks are still used. A lot of the time they're just transparently wrapped into async await because Apple Magic, which is good. You don't have to worry about all of the fun of Objective-C. If you're familiar with HealthKit, you know Objective-C is still everywhere. And all of the structure of the actual framework you're using is going to be Objective-C. You can't escape it. So this callback happens, and then you've got an instance of HK workout session on your phone that you can use to transmit data between them. A little bit convoluted. Okay, over on the watch. You get, I didn't put in a slide for the actual app delegate stuff, and I hyped it up, and I'm sorry. Okay, you get a call to the app delegate. It will say, hey, go start this workout. Here is your HK workout configuration. You then go to whatever part of your code is handling the workout session creation, and you say, okay, here is your configuration. Please go and create the session. You then want to create a builder. Now, if you're creating a workout session on the phone, you don't actually get what's called a live builder. The live builder only exists on the watch, and the watch is there because it's the only one that for some reason can actually receive all of your heart rate and all of that other data. It's a bit weird, the separation. I'm not going to complain, but yep, this is what you do. You get your session, you get your builder, you assign all of your delegates, you then assign data sources because yeah, all of this stuff is seriously old in design patterns, but it works and it's all good. And then you say, okay, session, go start mirroring to the companion device. In this case, the watch's companion is the phone, and that's when you get the callback, and off you go. You now have the sessions in sync and transferring data and everything like that. Cool, awesome. Okay, so you've got your session, but you want to pause it, or you want to do something else like resume it or end it. So you can do this stuff with the session state. If you pause the session on one device, you are then going to get a delegate callback on the companion device going, here is your state changes. So you go, are we going from a running to a paused, or a paused to a running? Are we going from anything to an ended or a stopped? Then this is what you will get. Cool. Sending data. Okay, with the data transmitted via the HK workout session, it's all encoded data. So you are sending bits of data from one device to another, which means you take your type. Hopefully you're using value types, because value types are awesome. And you then do some, because the value type is going to be codable, which is best practice, you then do JSON or some other form of encoding down to data, and you send along that data via the session. This can happen on either end, so either of the two devices can send data to the other. It is the same behavior. Receiving of the data. Here's where it gets a bit fun, because it's an array. Now, I went on about timeliness of data before, and if this was just an instance of data, we would know that it's discretely sending each thing through to the different device. But it's not. This is an array, meaning that iOS and watchOS will try to determine what is going to be the most optimal transmission rate between the two devices. And it's a lot better than watch connectivity, but at the same time, it's going to be batched. Like, it might be one element in an array, it might be 10 elements in an array, and you just have to deal with the fact that they all are coming there in a batch. So hopefully you're sending a timestamp and you're able to look at it and go, okay, I've decoded all of this. What's the range? Do I just throw some stuff out because I don't care about it? All of those smarts you will have to do and take care of yourself. Cool, awesome. Updates on the watch. So the watch with its live workout builder is the one that will receive stuff like your heart rate or any samples from like a power meter or a cadence meter that are paired directly to the watch. So if that's what's happening, then you will get all of these health kit samples or health kit events on the live workout builder delegate, which is all of your health kit data already part of that session now because health kit magic, but you then sort of look at it, transform it from the quantity sample or some other bit of information and send it through to the companion device. Cool, awesome. What you've now got is you've got, say, your heart rate coming from the watch, and you're able to show it on the phone, and you're able to keep everything on the phone as you go forward, which is awesome. Cool. Okay, testing considerations. This is where it gets a bit fun because you can't use the simulator. You have to use physical devices, which in the case of cycling data means you're either stuck on an indoor trainer for a long time or you're going to be out cycling. You've got your laptop in a pannier or something and you're just going point to point, debugging, tweaking things, and then going off again. So you've got a lot of fun there. And yeah, as with any sort of workouts, there are just so many variables and considerations to go with. One of the things I discovered a bit more recently after doing this particular talk is if you've created this session on the watch, you need to then make sure that you stop that session, and you also need to make sure that any extra data you get from the phone gets written to that session so that it is all available in the health app. All of these fun things you actually don't realize just with the simulator because you can't use the simulator and you need to be out on the road and cycling, which is fun. Okay. I sort of sped through that, so, and that's the end of the talk. Are there any questions?
I'll do mine first. Why can't you use the simulator to test? Did I miss that?
Something Apple are lazy.
Okay, so I just okay. That good enough.
Okay, sorry. That was a bit abrupt of me.
Hardware.
Yeah, I don't know the real reason why this particular bit of functionality is not available between Simulate iPhone and Watch Simulator. It's weird because you can do stuff like your watch connectivity. Some of the delegates get called so you can see the actual interactions with the watch becoming active with the app delegate callback, but what doesn't happen is the creation of the HK workout session, which is the thing you need because that's what handles the communication. Yeah, if I ever end up on the other side of the wall and working on this stuff, I'll probably make it work, but I'm not there, so yep. That is definitely also to say that there are really ridiculously smart people working on this health stuff. So yeah, I think it's just not their priority. Cool. Ed, I think you had a question. Do you want to wait for the microphone?
Hang on.
Oh,
hang on. I'm gonna work my way this way. If that's cool.
Okay.
This makes it easier.
I've got a quick one. So in the end, you've got your watch connectivity that you had, and then you've moved to this one. Do you end up with smaller batch sizes than you had? Like, is that the essential difference between the two?
So this question was around the essential. What are the essential differences between just using watch connectivity straight up and the new workout mirroring? Watch connectivity was never guaranteed. So even, which means you'd need the app to be running in the foreground, and you would need watchOS and iOS cooperating in order to guarantee the delivery in a timely manner. That's what workout mirroring does.
Okay, my question is around, I know the talk is around the connectivity, so if this goes into too much of just like how does the health kit data work, but how do you specify that you want like a heart rate, for example? Is that specified in the builder, and you could like filter that out and decide not to send that through to the session? Is that how it works?
Okay, so the question is a general health kit one of how do you ask for the right data to be recorded? And when you are dealing with health kit, because government regulations and privacy are paramount with health data, and they always should be, you need to be very explicit around what the data is you can read, which is, say, getting something from HealthKit, and what is the data you can write. So in the case of heart rate on the Apple Watch, you need to have the permission to read it. If you don't have that permission, you just do not see the data at all. So the data does not come into the builder as a sample if you do not have that permission. Once you get it into the builder and as a sample, you can do whatever you want because you're exposed to it and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that covers. Yeah, so the access to the health and specifying what data you're requesting from the watch, for example, is completely untouched by this, and this is just a sort of like a transport mechanism for whatever data you are seeing that is designed to be more timely.
Yep, pretty
Yeah,
much.
Cool, thanks.
Any questions over here? Hey, hang on.
It wasn't so much a question, Naomi, as I think a comment. I think part of your challenge is that the other half of the workout is on your bicycle instrumentation, and you're trying to integrate the two data streams.
Oh, it's worse than that. So there is no guarantee that someone will pair all of their devices to the phone. They can always pair it to the watch, which means that data, it's sort of, if a device is paired to the watch, the path for seeing the actual values will be the device gets picked up by HealthKit, you see all of the samples come through. Those samples appear in your watch target's code, and then you decide what you want to do with them, such as send them through to the phone, display it directly, whatever you want. So in my particular case, I need to make sure that connections are possible on either device. Data gets transmitted in both directions. I'm not doing anything horrible like constantly sending the same data back and forth and stuff like that.
Somewhat to that point, and I guess to Pat's question, I guess to simulate a workout, you'd actually have to have a set of time series data that is replayed in real time. And Apple obviously don't have that at the moment, right, Amy? So
they do.
Do they?
So
okay, well there you go.
Within the iOS simulator, you can select a location. One of those locations is a bike ride, which is time series data of location updates around Cupertino.
Okay, but heart rate data and all that kind of stuff that you'd normally have in your workout,
you don't get
screen, you're not going to get that.
You
right?
don't get the heart rate, you don't get the power, you don't get any of that.
Simulating location changes has been there for quite a while, I think. But
Yep.
yeah, for the workout itself, you'd need somebody to record all that and replay it.
Like, I'm hopeful that there is a large amount of that data somewhere in Apple Park that they can just go, hey, let's make use of this.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, let's give it a round of applause.
Jeez, yeah, nobody wants to see that. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Amy. That was great. Very interesting stuff. All of that stuff, watch apps and widgets and all that, it all seems so simple until you actually try and do it, and it's a nightmare. Okay, just before we head off, I'll remind you of some more events that are happening. Hack Night is happening next week. Tim. I just love that animation. Do you want me to do it again? Go, Tim. You got to have some fun with Apple events. Social Night is the week after Hack Night, and breakfast is the week after that. So, yeah. Sorry, Tim. Yeah, he could have at least come for a beer or some pancakes. Yeah. All right, I'll do that. I'll do that next time. Big thanks to our sponsors, Itty Bitty Apps and Baloo. And that's it. We can now go to the pub. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for turning up.